Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing my all-time favorite book boyfriends. Alright guys, so I actually got this video idea from a subscriber. They left a comment in one of my videos saying they wanted to hear all about my favorite bookish boyfriends, and I love that idea. So for this video, I have 7 books picked out. I'm going to do a brief, spoiler-free summary of every book, and then just discussing my favorite bookish boyfriends in each book. Now, I have a good mix of contemporary romance and fantasy romance, and if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram and Goodreads, both linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about my bookish boyfriends. Alright, so starting off with my absolute favorite bat boy, we have Rhysand from A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is actually A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the nerdy ink version. It's really, really pretty, but I love Rhysand with all my heart. ACOTAR might be my absolute favorite fantasy romance series. It probably is my favorite series, actually, of all time. This series got me back into reading. So if you have not read A Court of Thorns and Roses, it is following Feyre. And Feyre is this human girl that is living in poverty. And she's living on the border of the Fae realms. So one day when she is hunting, she accidentally kills a Fae. And in repayment for this, she has to go and live with the High Lord of the Spring Court, who is this terrifying fairy. And it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And it's glorious. It is so good. The angst and just everything about this series I love. Especially Rhysand. He is protective of Feyre. He is terrifying. He has ridiculous power, but he's also like crazy loyal to his friends, and he's just like the perfect male. So he is my absolute favorite. Azriel is a really, really close second, but please, if you like fantasy romance and you have not read ACOTAR, definitely check it out. It's absolutely amazing. All right, and then continuing with Sarah J. Maas, we have House of Sky and Breath, and this is the second book in the Crescent City series. So, Rune Danon, Crown Prince of the Belbaran Fae. I am sure most of you are familiar with that TikTok noise. My shirt actually says Daddy Rune. So, Rune is introduced in the first book, but I fell in love with him in this book. He is just such a good character, and he's actually described as looking very similar to Rhysand. So, if you have not read Crescent City, it is following Bryce Quinlan, and she is this girl that is living in Lunathian, which is a city of all paranormal creatures. And one day, after going out and partying all night, she comes home and finds out something very tragic has happened. One of her very good friends has been murdered. So Bryce, with the help of a fallen angel, team up to try to figure out what actually went down that night. And it's really fun. I really enjoyed the first book. This book I didn't really love. It was very, very long. There's a lot of info given to you. However, it's an amazing series overall. So definitely check it out if you haven't yet. Like I said, first book, absolutely amazing. I laughed, I cried. It was just great. But Rune Danon is just chef's kiss. All right, and next up is another Sarah J. Maas Fae. Apparently she just writes Fae that I like really connect with. So we have Rowan Whitethorn. So this is actually Heir of Fire. This is also a nerdy ink cover. And this is either book 3 or 4, depending on when you read Assassin's Blade. But if you have not read the Throne of Glass series, 1, definitely do so. 2, it is so hard to summarize. So it's really following this girl, Selena Sardarthian, and she is an assassin, and she's badass. And the first book is her starting or going to this competition, trying to gain her freedom from the crown. And then the story just goes everywhere. So this book is definitely my favorite. I will say I really struggled with the first 2 books. If you're not counting Assassin's Blade, they've read very, very YA. But as the story progresses, it just becomes absolutely fantastic. I love this series. Definitely, it's worth the read. I know it's super long, but it's so good. So I absolutely love everything Sarah J. Maas writes. I've read all of her books. She's one of my favorite authors, and she just writes amazing Fae males, apparently. So yeah, definitely check this out if you haven't yet. All right, and continuing with fantasy romance, we have The Zodiac Academy by Peckman and Suzanne Valenti. And I actually have a full spoiler-free series review I will leave in the cards and in the description. So this is following 2 girls, and on their 18th birthday, they find out that they are actually Fae royalty. But in order to gain their inheritance, they have to go to the Zodiac Academy. And when they get there, they find out that there are some celestial heirs that are already ruling the school and don't want to deal with these 2 fake royals. And it's so good. It's a bully romance. I love this series. The first book is very hard to get through. It's not great, but as the series goes, it just gets better and better. And the drama, the angst, it's like a really bad soap opera that you just can't stop watching. And I really loved it. So there's actually a lot of different guys you could choose from. I mean, you have vampire, werewolf, everything in this. Dragon was close. So my second favorite character, or guy character in this, is Darius Acrex. He's this dragon shifter, and he is just angry and brooding. But my absolute favorite is Lanza Ryan. He is a vampire professor. He's also a Libra, and he's everything. I love him so much. By far my favorite bookish boyfriend in the Zodiac Academy. Definitely read this. If you are a fan of fantasy romance, you are going to love it. And next up, we have The Stray Prince by Ella Fields. So this is the second book in the A King So Cold duet. I just finished this duet, and it is amazing. It is following this girl that when the book starts, she is a queen, and these people are coming to invade her lands. And also, there's some added drama that a servant has found her husband wandering around, and he's about to marry someone else. So she takes her husband into custody and starts to torture him, and we're trying to figure out what led to all this. And I love our main character that we follow in this series. She is flawed and broken and merciless, but you totally understand her motivations for doing the things she does. So I've talked to a few people, and I said it's kind of like an upgraded RN from Guild. I feel like when Guild starts, our main character is also very broken. However, I really related to the main character in this series way more than I did with Guild. So if you're a fan of fantasy romance, once again, definitely check this series out. My favorite book boyfriend in this series is Zad. I can't tell you why though, because it's gonna give away so many spoilers, but I love Zad. Love him. Absolutely amazing. One of my favorites. So definitely, please, if you have not read this duet yet, definitely pick it up. All right, and my last fantasy romance bookish boyfriend is Castiel from Blood and Ash. So if you're unfamiliar with the From Blood and Ash series, it is following Poppy. And Poppy is the maiden. She has been raised her entire life in isolation. No one's allowed to speak to her. No one's allowed to touch her. And she is waiting for her ascension. We have no idea what that means. We just know it is something she's waiting for. So then one day she decides she wants to sneak out, live a little bit. She goes in disguise to this bar where she has an entanglement with Hawk, who is the newest member of the Rise Guard. And soon he kind of helps her get out of her shell, and it goes from there. I love this series. It is one of my absolute favorite series. I know it's getting a little bit of hate right now just because of the last book, but still, it is so much fun and so worth reading. But Castiel is like the perfect male hero. He is sarcastic, he is snarky, and he's just really fun. So highly recommend. Definitely, if you haven't read the series yet, check it out. All right, and moving into contemporary romance. So I have 3 books, but I actually have 6 more bookish boyfriends. So first up, we have It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So this is my favorite Colleen Hoover book. I feel like even if you're not a fan of Colleen Hoover, I would still give this book a try. This book is very emotional. The second book, or the companion novel to this book, is coming out in October. It Starts With Us. I cannot wait to read that book. That is probably my most anticipated read of the second half of the year. But this is following our main character, who is the product of domestic violence, and it's really just showing the cycle of abuse, how you can see the warning signs and still find yourself in a very toxic relationship. And my favorite character in this by far is Atlas. He is just such a good guy. In the beginning of this book, he's actually a homeless teen that our main character ends up helping. And then we jump into the future and she runs into him once he's like back on his feet. And it's just a beautiful story. So definitely check this book out if you haven't yet. All right, and next up we have Oliver Masters from Stay With Me, which is by Nicole Fiorina. I love this series. It is just, it's so good. And I am typically someone that really loves a dark, angry character that doesn't show his emotions except to the girl that he's absolutely in love with. And that is the opposite of what Oliver Masters is. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he is just such a sweetheart. So this book, if you have not read this series yet, it is following Mia, and she is diagnosed as a sociopath. She does not show emotions at all, and she's been making her family's life hell. So her family ends up sending her to this reformatory college, and when she gets there, she meets Oliver Masters, who is also a, not inmate, not a jail, he's also a patient at this reformatory college. And he is diagnosed, I think, as being like an empath, and he just feels other people's emotions super deeply, and he really tries to help Mia like express herself and really gets Mia out of a dark place. Then the second book is the reverse of that. So now Oliver is in a really deep depression and just not himself, and Mia has to get him out of that. and it's just an amazing series, and Oliver Masters has my heart. He is the best guy. And last up, we have the Ravenhood series. So this is Flock, the first book in the series. I have a full spoiler-free series review. I will leave a link to the cards and the description. This is my favorite contemporary romance series. This series made me bawl my eyes out. The second book hurt so much, but it is so good. And it is following our main character who is moving to a new town to work for her estranged father. And when she gets there, she meets these two guys, and they pull her into their world, and it goes from there. I know that is not a very good synopsis, but it is so hard to describe what happens in this book without giving away any spoilers. Go in blind and just enjoy it. But I could not pick between the guys in this series. So we have Sean, who is just like a sweet teddy bear, like golden retriever type guy. And then you have Dominic, who's more of the brooding type, but he's so sensitive when it comes to our main character. And then you have Tobias, who is just, he's so good, and it's age gap, and he's French, and it's amazing. Definitely read the series. I know it's super hyped on TikTok, and a lot of people, it has like mixed reviews now. I feel like it kind of got overhyped, but it's so good. It's so good. So please, if you have not read the series yet, definitely read it, and let me know in the comments which guy you would pick, because I could not choose between the three. Alright guys, so those are all of my favorite book boyfriends. Please let me know down in the comments below who your favorite book boyfriend is. And I said this already, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye!